Thank you, John, for being here. PwC and Westside Future Fund have worked on a very exciting project engagement, and I do want to thank you for again for being here. We have come to work with you, and we know what Westside does. But for the broader audience here, John, can you help us understand the goals, the vision of Westside Future Fund, and what you have been able to do so far to get towards that?
Yeah, no, thanks for being here. I've never presented where folks are listening to me through headphones. It's just kind of a new experience, but to kind of make sure folks are listening, raise your hand if you've heard of Dr. Martin Luther King. Like, you've heard, all right. So you've heard, raise your hand if you knew he was an Atlanta native. He was born in Atlanta, raise your hand. All right, this looks smaller. So raise your hand if you knew as an Atlanta native, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, he won the Nobel Peace, all right. Raise your hand if you know he last lived on Atlanta's west side. I think one person. So I'm an Atlanta native, and I take a lot of passion and inspiration from Dr. Martin Luther King and the way he helped lead a movement to change our country. And the Westside Future Fund is a place-based not-for-profit in some of the historic black neighborhoods of Atlanta where Dr. Martin Luther King last lived. So we have as our vision statement, how do you develop a community Dr. King would be proud to call home? Because he and his wife, Coretta, last lived in Vine City in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I live today. When he was alive, and segregation was unfortunately still very much the case, that the neighborhoods that were focused, you see on the graph, had over 50,000 residents, the neighborhoods that were focused. They were overwhelmingly black and mixed income because blacks had no choice in the South in terms of where they lived. So there was the high wage to the low wage all lived together. We'll go back for a second. And then with structural barriers coming down, the neighborhoods depopulated. And so the neighborhoods today, very much the median income is about 25,000, a lot of abandonment because the neighborhoods are literally 2/3 of the population left. And now we know jobs are coming back to Atlanta's urban core. We have an opportunity to build a much better community. And now we'll go next. And one of the areas that we've gotten super focused at the Westside Future Fund has been a lot of the help of Salesforce and PwC. As people move back into the community, a lot of the low-wage folks who live in the community don't want to be pushed out with that rising tide. And so it was a major focus with funds that we're raising, a program called Home on the West Side, where we ensure people who are legacy residents or have a connection to the neighborhood can remain in the neighborhood. And so now we've, and some of the high quality development we can do, you can see up on the slides, because we have a lot of focus on making sure people feel better about where they live, so we're putting people into much higher quality housing through our Home on the yeah, and you can see, like on the left, that was actually an abandoned lot. You can see what it looks like today in that single family. And what was the last slide we had? Any more pictures? Yep. No, great. And so we're very focused with the rising tide of the neighborhoods to ensure people that have a historic connection to the neighborhood can be a part of the coming prosperity.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, this is looking so wonderful, the houses that when they are done and when residents move in, and the quality of life that they're able to get on the west side, as you mentioned, has been really wonderful to see. However, it's also challenging to be able to match all the grants, the donations, and then the projects, and making sure you get the right applicants and so
right
on. We've talked about this late last year when we looked at what you have in-house in terms of Salesforce and how you are able to manage some of these donations and donors as well as the applications. So when we spoke and then when we started this project to help you improve and operationalize things better for you, what are your thoughts on some of the key areas that you felt that there was challenges? And then some of the things that PwC was able to come in and do in terms of improving some things operationally for you. Where do you think were the top benefits for all of you?
No, I'm very grateful for PwC coming in, because we had Salesforce, but we're not in any way really leveraging it correctly. So we had both kind of programming it correctly as well as a training issue with our team. And our Home on the West Side program, what's really important part of our program to build trust with the community is we have community retention criteria that factors in how long have you lived in the community, have you worked in the community, and where did you go to school? So we prioritize people with that historic connection, and that was not working at all in terms of our automatic scoring process. So one of the things that y'all did was so important to us was to come in and help redesign the programming, the back-end programming with the Salesforce, and also ensure that our team was really using it correctly, because what's really, really critical for us, before y'all came in, and often when we move around the community, people say, hey, I put in my application, I haven't heard anything. Right? You don't like to hear that, but fast forward to today and all the great work that y'all did, because you ensured that people once their application is done, we have a process to making sure we're following up and touching them, how often. So the improvement we've had there has been tremendous. And the other flip of that, our other key stakeholder group, is our philanthropic fundraising. We've raised and invested about 100 million so far in these neighborhoods. We're on track to raise about another 100 million over the next 3-4 years. And our outreach and connection to the donor community and putting in place Salesforce to really help us track our donor pipeline and follow up as well was amazing in terms of, and what I really appreciated, wanted to say about PwC is how much y'all worked with our team to train them and help them use the new tools much better.
No, we work with our clients very closely, and a lot of these engagements are really fun, but this one is like cherry on the top. Your team and our team, like they're almost friends and family,
right?
Every single day. But despite that, we got things done
right
on time and rolled this out very effectively. So one more question on when I go back to the skills that your team had, and now you're able to use the system more effectively. What is your thoughts on how that training is starting to help some of your employees to do what you want them to?
No, I really appreciate that question. I also appreciate it because I can remember when you and I first talked and we were doing the scoping, one of the things I said was, because I have had this experience before, is you have this great software, but people don't really know how to use it. And how we really were going to make sure is that our team were well trained, because I knew they weren't. And what I really appreciate is y'all coming in, doing some training, but also putting in place self-training modules. So as an example, one of the employees who was our office manager when y'all started, now is part of our home on the program administration, but all the self-training modules that you put in place and stood up for us, she's working through right now. And so helping our employees to learn it much better, but also put in place the self-training tools so that they could do it for themselves was such a big part of the great work y'all did for us.
That's awesome to hear, the continued improvement that we see. Now, given that you have some operational improvement, Salesforce is in place, and there is donor management coming in, etc. If you look at the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, where do you think Salesforce is driving from a technology standpoint, and what are your goals that you hope Salesforce can help you accomplish?
Yeah, we have very ambitious targets over the next 3 years or so. We want to raise about 55 million philanthropic, which will leverage another 45 million from our low-cost loan fund, another 10 million public grants. That all in will produce about 600 units of high-quality housing along these community retention guidelines. And so one, we need the Salesforce as our product is becoming much more well-known in the community, to making sure that intake process, to follow up, all that goes great. And also once we're serving a resident within that Salesforce database, we often are following up, making sure if people need to understand how to connect to the healthcare resources or job training. So really ensuring that they're serving our stakeholders much, much better. And also back to the donor pipeline, we've never kind of aggressively fundraised like we are now based on our past success. So Salesforce to really help us stay on top of all of our donor pipeline management and all of our follow through as well.
In that context, would you say that some of the efficiencies are now that you can start focusing on that in terms of donors and pipeline versus, most of the time earlier was spent on applications, duplication, content, data, that sort of a thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing that even though we're a not-for-profit, we have to be competitive in the marketplace, right? A scarcity is philanthropic resources. Lots of folks are competing for philanthropic resources in Atlanta. Lots of folks competing for stuff like us. So we have to be really good. And ensuring that we're really good in serving our residents, because that matters to the donor community. If they hear from residents that we're not doing a great job, right? And back to, the donor management as well. So the Salesforce, in terms of our team's execution, we have to be excellent. And if we, some of the issues that y'all unpack for us to really use Salesforce as that driver, both with those that we're serving as well as our donor community, are critical for us to reach our goals.
Awesome. This is exactly what we have heard from all your team members and how it's impacting their operations.
Yeah. Can I say one other thing? Because I think, too, one of the things about a not-for-profit is you're often very resource conscious, right? And how you're using scarce donor dollars. But what I really want to compliment about PwC when y'all came in with your team, it's back to how y'all spent so much time training our team on how to use it, right? Because it's not like we can keep, we don't have huge margins to invest in that kind of work. But that's where I really appreciate how PwC really came in and very intentionally mapped out all the different kind of training we needed to really use Salesforce well.
That is true, because you are always going to be limited by the staff and what you want them to prioritize. Right. So completely understand. And I know that there are some of our nonprofit organizations here, but whoever is going to listen to this offline, what is sort of your takeaway from leveraging Salesforce for your organization, and what would you like to tell them in terms of, hey, do this, don't do this, good practices, that sort of a thing?
Don't be scared to be ambitious. And also there's so much best practice out there. How can you learn? And that's where y'all are so helpful, is how do we learn from best practices? How do we learn from excellence? But then certainly, tap into those that can help you, like PwC, because we don't have enough resources to kind of hire a full-time Salesforce team, and that's where folks like y'all become just critical. So I'd encourage not-for-profit partners to reach out to people like PwC to really help you, implement. I think it'll become even more critical as AI really moves in, that this, our execution excellence as not-for-profits is going to become even more imperative.
Really appreciate that thought, John, and this has been an awesome chat. But I'm not sure if there is...
One item I would like to add is that when we started this project, we looked at it holistically to solve the problems, make the process and procedure much easier and simpler for people who are, when they're coming to you, they're already under stress. So we don't want to create more procedure. So that's why we eased the application process. And now I think going forward, the inclusion of Gen AI, that would be another step with the newer tool, newer technology, so they can reach out to the ops team, to WFF for the faster application process, documentation, uploading, and all that. So I'm really looking forward to. I've really enjoyed working on the project. I'm looking forward for the future as well.
If anyone wants to learn more about our work, head to our website, or if you want to walk the neighborhoods, we always love to welcome people in to tour, to both be inspired by what could be and challenged by what we need to change. So anyone here, we'll make sure you're in our Salesforce database so we follow up. So thank you.
I cannot see the timer, but do we have?
We have time for the questions.
Couple more minutes, or how much?
We have about six minutes. Yes.
Okay.
So
well, I do have a quick question though. In terms of what you see on the west side in Atlanta and your efforts, how much of technology? Cam mentioned Gen AI driving some of more efficiencies, but in other areas that you have interacted with your stakeholders, you got residents coming in, you got other partners helping you. How much of technology has helped your organization? I know you have an app that surveys people. Where do you think technology is going to drive some of what you're going to do?
Well, one thing I was talking with some folks in this very session is that I'm always amazed that we have folks in our very high quality housing. And often when you survey them, the first thing they want to do is increase their wage, earn better money. And so there are actually different job training not-for-profits around, or other services. And often the residents you want to help kind of climb up the ladder rungs, they don't know that those ladder rungs are literally right around the corner. And so one thing I'm really interested in with AI and building on some stuff we've already done is and especially be kind of meeting a resident, where they are, can they interact? Because a lot of these residents, they all have cell phones. They may not have other. But is there a way, if they're like, say, hey, I want to do this kind of job training, or others, because often these folks, if they don't have immediate follow through, they just check out. And so I'm very interested if AI can help us serve folks better on their own pace and helping them plug into the resources that are often right around them, but they're just not aware of.
That's a great point, because we are already seeing the effects of AI on productivity, applying technology where people can now focus and prioritize, and a lot of automation as well as mining of processes that can improve efficiency. So we're definitely looking forward to how that can drive efficiency for you as well.
And I also think too, at AI can be very interesting, the way it can customize based on someone's interaction is to show up to them in a way that they're going to understand and connect. Right? Because often sometimes the cultural barriers become a communication issue between people who want to help but may not connect in the right way. So I'm also interested in how AI might help overcome some of that as well.
Agreed. Awesome. I see the signs from the back, but do we have a Q&A, or do we wrap up?
We have time for the question, but I have the slide open, John, for you, so if you want to.
This allows for a mic and a Q&A, but we appreciate all of you coming in. As John mentioned, we will share this on his website. There is a lot of information and how they accomplish what they do. And John, again, we really appreciate you coming in to chat with us and this audience.
We timed it perfectly. We got the clap from the other one too.
All right. Thank you.